America is a dream place to live. It is still the land of the free. It is still a place you want to be.
It is a proud privilege to be a citizen of the great republic, to realize that we are the descendants of 40 million people who left other countries to come here to the United States to build a new life.
Immigrants are the instruments. They're the tools of making that progress continue.
Legal immigrants enrich our nation and strengthen our society.
I probably would not be where I am if I was not living in the United States.
I want people to come into our country in the largest numbers ever, but they have to come in legally.
I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all of those so-called dreamers, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country.
Honestly, if I didn't move to the US, I'm not sure what would I do in Belarus.
Через 2 года Минск станет столицей Соединенных Штатов Америки.
The US government is extending export controls to Belarus.
I could not see my future there. I know I was going to the university. It seemed as if I had everything together. I had a major picked out, but I had no idea what I'm going to do with it.
I am a product of the United States. I came here as a child. I was given the amazing opportunity to go to school here, obtain a good quality education, build a life, and build that American dream.
My parents were planning to immigrate to the United States for many, many years. Because United States, as they say, is the land of opportunity. They wanted to give a better life for me and my sister, for our entire family.
My parents moved to the United States just like a lot of people did for the opportunity. My dad was getting involved with software engineering when it was pretty new, and all of the opportunities that he wanted to pursue were in America, so he came here for that.
You know, look at me, I came as a Jewish refugee from the former Soviet Union, from Ukraine. We arrived with 3 suitcases. There was 5 of us. We lived in a cramped apartment in Northeast Philadelphia. And here I went to a wonderful high school, a very well respected university. I went to law school, obtained a master's degree, and here I am practicing immigration law and living that American dream. So if I can do it, you can do it. And if you can do it, then I encourage you to tell others that they can do it as well.
Finally, we must think big and dream even bigger. In America, we understand that a nation is only living as long as it is striving.
This is a great nation. We're good people. And over the centuries, through storm and strife, in peace and in war, we've come so far. But we still have far to go.
Every wave of the immigration is actually explained by reasons why people moved here. Well, first immigrants, it was actual labor immigration like 200 years ago, when the new markets, new lands were open. So a lot of people were moving here to find better life for their children, for their future.
Ellis Island is the small patch of land within the Hudson River near the city of New York where almost 100 years migrants arrived. It was the first landing place they had as they migrated across the Atlantic Ocean to the United States.
That was a point where actually a lot of immigrants, when they arrived at that time, they arrived on the ships. So they were processed there. And the immigration during that time was also not easy because the major obstacle to immigrate here was actually health conditions. When you travel on the sea for 2 months, a lot of people caught unhealthy conditions, so they were not able to immigrate here.
It was the first patch of land they saw in the United States, and that island was the official reception place for those migrants to be processed, to be registered, and very often actually to be given a new name. It was a lot of times shortened by the American Customs and Border Patrol or immigration officials, and a lot of names were Americanized. So if you were Ivan, you became a John. If you were Kuznetsky, you became Kuznets. For example, they would shorten them to make it easy.
That was not easy time, and a lot of people, when their grandparents immigrated here, they really had to start from zero. But again, because it was a country with big opportunities, they were able to reach their dream and give the dream to their children, to their grandchildren.
I moved to the US in August of 2014. My mom was already here for 6 months, and I have been coming from Belarus at that time. I dropped out of college because I had to, frankly. And yeah, first apartment that we had was in Bay Ridge. It was quite an interesting neighborhood. That was the kind of America that I haven't seen in movies before.
I remember stepping out of the airport and the snow was coming down. I had never seen snow before in my life. I was like a little kid, man. It's like the movies, man. I'm seeing snow for the first time, and it was really cool. And it was at night, so I didn't get to see much, but everything just looked bright and bigger, and yeah, I enjoyed it, yeah.
I remember my arrival. I was expecting for us to, back from my memories of America, all were from American movies. Rambo, Terminator. I thought that we're gonna land in the big skyscrapers, but when we got off the airplane in Philadelphia, when we came to Northeast Philadelphia, I was a little bit shocked to find more like suburbs, village type of living.
I've been journalist since the war in Kosovo.
Yes, I see killing people in the streets. I see them in the streets killing. I see 3 people and 1 little child.
In 2015, I received an award from State Department, the First Lady, Michelle Obama, and it was an award for Women of Courage.
First time I came here, so everything is massive. I was shocked, like huge buildings, tall skyscrapers, taxis all over the place. Originally, I'm from Moscow, Russia. I moved in 2017 by various reasons, just wanted for better life, maybe something different, stable, to see the world. And being an orphan, it wasn't hard for me to make that decision.
De todo, porque en Colombia y casi todos los países, antes y ahora, están supremamente mal. Y la oportunidad mía era, no tenía college, no tenía ningún otro recurso. Entonces yo me voy para Estados Unidos, y en Estados Unidos hay más lugares o más oportunidades donde superarse.
It really depends if you were imagining your life in New York as a city or in the US as a whole. I've been to New York before, and it is frankly quite different from the rest of the country. You can see that there is so much culture in the city, there are so many nationalities mixed together, and this is the place where I want to be.
I like the action of New York. I like that everybody is kind of out there with the goal of making it. You know, whatever making it means, whatever, if it's to make money, if it's to own a business, if it's to manage a restaurant, be in a movie, become a musician.
I want to be immersed in this incredible culture of people with different backgrounds, different nations in that one city.
I'm very happy that I ended up in New York because that's where a lot of opportunities are, to be honest. Like there's opportunities almost in every area in every industry here in the city. Maybe in smaller cities, you wouldn't have as much flexibility to do whatever you want as you can have in New York.
I really like the attitude. It seems like everybody's in a nice fishbowl of trying to get to the next level of their life, of their career. I feel like it's never a dull city. No one ever just kind of wants to hang out. No one wants to feel left behind. So I miss that about New York. It's got a very good energy.
I think that the one big impact that you feel right away is seeing so many people from so many different countries in the same place.
You can see people from all over the world, like you can see different cultures. I like food restaurants here from all over the place. I heard that certain countries may not even know that they have restaurants, but they have their cuisine in New York.
New York is the melting pot, so right away you realize why they say that, you know?
Now, when people come to the United States or attempt to come to the United States, they usually arrive through family reunification, that is, their U.S. citizen relatives or green card holder relatives petition the U.S. government to come here. Those are brothers, those are sisters of U.S. citizens, those are parents, underage children, and children over the age of 21. And the other method is that people come through work visas or investment visas.
I moved here as a work and travel student. My first summer was in Florida. It's not really immigration, I would say. It was fun because you're surrounded by a bunch of people your age and you're working really hard.
Это был сумасшедший риск. Продано в Украине там все, что было. Ну, понятно, недвижимость оставили, машины, движимое, все продали, хоть с какими-то деньгами поехать. Естественно, эти деньги закончились очень быстро, за, не знаю, месяца 3, наверное, 4. Оно же понимание было другое. Когда ты живешь в Украине, у тебя есть доход, у тебя расходы совсем другие. А когда мы переезжали, не у кого было спросить, а у кого спрашивали, давали такую информацию, либо в Ютубе ты смотришь эти ролики про успешных людей, которые рассказывают, и ты думаешь, блин, так я же тоже такой, я сейчас я все сделаю. А когда приезжаешь, ты понимаешь, что, блин, все не так легко. И все, деньги закончились очень быстро.
It's hard for ballet dancers, Japanese ballet dancers, to get visa here because like immigration is getting harder every year. So before I got married, it was such a huge thing to overcome. Like, you know, like I was always late for the ballet season because I couldn't leave the country unless I get the visa. Yeah, it took forever. It took forever. I don't know as a Japanese person, but as a dancer, you just have to have this, so you can have visa.
It's hard. I was very fortunate. Like I can't believe it happened the way it happened, and it was, most people get denied a visa because the requirements are so high, and it was difficult. Getting the green card was also like a long process that took a long time.
Now it's pretty difficult. I think it could take from anywhere to 10 years now to get residence visa. You can always get a travel visa, for going for vacation, but to move is not so easy.
So I come back to Ukraine. I was kind of depressed for first month or two. I want to go back. So then I applied for a visa and I got rejected. It's no way that you can get second visa. You have like 3% chance. You will only waste your money if you will apply for a second opinion for the visa. But I did, and I got a visa. So it was 2013, and we arrived in New York with my mom. And since then, we live in the United States.
I think that the opportunities to get visas when you're Indian, there are a lot of jobs, especially in the tech sector. I know my company sponsors a lot of visas for people. For my parents, it was a different time in the 90s. I'm not sure what it was like for them when it came to the process, but I know that citizenship as a process is always harrowing. Like, I remember them wanting to get their US citizenship and it being something they were very stressed out about.
The last method, obviously, is people who are refugees, like my family was, or those who come to the United States as non-immigrants on a visitor visa, for example, or student visa, and for one reason or another are not able to go back to their home countries because of an imminent threat or a credible fear of return based on religion, nationality, race, political opinion, because they belong to a specific social group. Those people apply for asylum, and we work with a lot of asylum seekers.
When my parents told me that we're going to be moving to United States, I wasn't really sure why we were moving, but in the same time I was excited that we're going to be moving to a different country. So the process of immigration took a long time. We were in the process of immigration for about a year. We actually took a train from our city to Kiev and then took a train to Moscow. Then we actually took a train to Vienna, Austria. And then we lived 4 to 5 months in Austria. We had to wait for our paperwork to get processed. After that, we moved by train to Italy, where we spent another 4 to 5 months. And then from Italy, we took a flight to New York. Because all of our paperwork was processed, we finally got permission to travel to United States. And then from New York, we took a plane to Philadelphia. The entire immigration journey, as I remember, took us most of the year of 1989. So when we finally landed in Philadelphia, it was a big relief. The reason the immigration was so difficult because back at 1989 at Soviet Union, it was a communist country, so there wasn't an easy way to immigrate to America.
Я являюсь представителем великого советского народа. Народ, который совершил Великую Октябрьскую революцию под руководством Ленина. Народ, который построил социализм.
We were considered religious refugees, so for refugees to properly immigrate to the United States, we had to go through a process and a special roadmap to get to the United States. We had to file for a refugee paperwork, we had to get it approved by United States government, so it was a very lengthy and tedious process, but in the end, it was definitely worth it.
I've been receiving threats. They were using the photos of my kids because I was a public figure. They knew me. One day, my son came from school. I was at work when he was the first to see the Red Cross drawn next to my apartment door. Police came and one of the police officers told me, "Don't worry, if they want to do something to you, they will not warn you." weeks or 3 weeks later, I was in Albania, which is the neighbor country. And that night, when I went back home, I was physically attacked in my parking garage in Kosovo. Police, they said that they are trying their best, but they didn't find out who did that. So what happened, the worst thing, was because in meantime, I was again receiving, even after the attack, I was receiving threats. I had to pull out from all the activities of my kids. They became very isolated because I didn't know what might happen. I feel much safer here, and I knew that this is the right place to continue my work. I'm in the office when I have all the commodity to write and raise my words, no censor. No one says you cannot say this or that. And since I came here, we are jointly working on this mission against the human rights abuses, not just in Kosovo, but all over the world.
I moved to the States for a job. So I got a job offer at a church. And so I moved here on a visitor's visa and worked through all the paperwork for about, I think, a year and a half. And yeah, so I worked at the place for about 5 years. I moved here in 2014, I believe it was March of 2014. And yeah, I've been here ever since.
Funny thing is, a lot of Japanese people go back to Japan after living here. So Japan's an awesome place. It's beautiful, people are nice, everything is open 24/7. It's in a way easier to live there. I don't think I would have came here if I wasn't dancing. So yeah, I don't know, there's good and bad in both countries. A lot of people actually go back to Japan. I have so many dancer friends who used to dance in here, and then they're done dancing, they just go back.
Well, obviously, cultural immersion is very difficult to achieve because unlike, 100 years ago or even 50 years ago, the United States society has become less of a melting pot and more of I would call a salad bowl, right?
I really like the saying that US is not melting pot, it's salad. You don't have this pot where all the different ages and ethnicity melting together. They just chopped into small pieces and living separately. So we have this, I would say, gaps between, it's not even societies, the social groups, immigrants and Republicans and Democrats, different ethnicities and different races. And they live in their own bubbles. They don't really talk to other people from other bubbles. They don't communicate. They have own reality pretty much.
We are all part of the same American society, but all of us still prefer to be a little distinct and keep our cultural values and cultural traditions. So that's why I equate it to a salad bowl. It's not an original thought. Other people have called it this. And I think it's difficult because a lot of times when you come to the United States, you seek to live in the community and in a place that is familiar to you and that is speak a language that is obviously your native language, work with employers who are also from your home country or from a neighboring country.
I think initially you're going to have to do a lot of work when you just move. For sure, you have to assimilate to the new country, to new culture. You have to understand how people think and live here because from what I've seen, it's quite different from Belarus. So you definitely will have to work a lot harder in the beginning, but once you've passed a certain point, I think it's going to get better.
But a problem with that, they don't immerse themselves and don't integrate as well into American society. Now it's a cultural shock.
That's what I try to do. I try to kind of distance myself from a lot of Russian-speaking immigrants because I felt like they were stuck in this tiny bubble in Brighton Beach, and it felt wrong. I didn't move to the US to still speak Russian and be within that community. I moved to the US because I wanted to learn the new way of living. I wanted to learn about other people with other backgrounds. Right now we're in Brighton Beach, right next to one of the popular markets where you can get Russian produce or any kind of produce in Brighton Beach. It's hard to get out of this neighborhood because you have everything right next to you. It's some sort of a comfort zone where there are like-minded people like you, there are people that speak your language, and it's just easy to kind of default to this behavior and to this place. And I felt the same way as well in the beginning, but after a certain period of time, I just kind of realized that I had to get out because, I moved to this country to speak a different language, learn a different culture, and I had to push myself to get out of here as soon as possible.
I could say, hello, my name is Ria, but that's all I could do. So if somebody asks me about what color do you like some questions, I used to answer yes to everything, so it didn't make sense, the conversation. But I started trying not to, even if I have Japanese friends here, I try not to be with them all the time. So I try to have English speaker surrounding with them, so I learn more.
Zimbabwe was a British colony. English is kind of like a formal language, like for business, and a lot of the schools, they teach in English. And so English wasn't really hard. I understood everything perfectly.
When I came here, I didn't speak English, so it was very hard, even though I went straight to high school and mixed with, with other students.
When I first moved, I was afraid of all kinds of people. I did know the language, but I couldn't really fully express what I felt, or I couldn't understand what people were saying because I wasn't really used to the language yet at that time. Honestly, any interaction with any stranger on the street was scaring me.
Sometimes nobody could understand what I was trying to say this in your own language, but you just can't figure it out. But Google Translate is not working either for you. So people misunderstood me. My friends were telling me something, and then what I was trying to say is, okay, sounds good. But what I said was, I know, and it sounds mean, because all I say is, I know.
And it was a culture shock to me because people in the Dominican Republic are very warm. It's very normal, when you first meet someone, you give them a kiss on the cheek. If you don't, it's kind of weird. When I first came here, I was like, hey to everyone, and some people were like, oh, I don't like being hugged.
I think the biggest challenge was getting to know the culture and the people.
In Japan, you're a girl, you're supposed to be like this. Sometimes we have that. You cannot be too crazy, or you cannot be too loud. But here, I really don't care about it. It's I embrace it as my character, and my friends, people around me, understands that. Nobody ever puts me oh, you have to be like this because you are a girl. We don't really have that here, which is nice. My parents are always like, hey, calm down a little. Because I was always a hyper kid, so I still am to this day.
When I was growing up, people would always ask me, oh, where do you like it better, India or America? And I always said India, and I love so many things about it, and it's such a part of my identity, but I always struggled with the fact that there's a lot less freedoms there. And I can present myself however I am and pursue so many different opportunities here that I just don't think that I would have encountered in India.
Japan is very conservative country. My family is very conservative also. So sometimes I like fashion on side of the ballet. Sometimes my parents what are you wearing? Here I'm just wearing whatever. But at home I have to be careful a little bit. You aren't supposed to wear this. Why are you wearing like that? Very conservative, yes.
Another big difference for me, maybe as a young woman trying to find some independence, was that it is more easy to be independent here in New York.
Even in just my appearance, I feel like there are a lot of restrictions. It's been a major point of contention in my family that I bleach my hair blonde. For me, it's like the ultimate form of self-expression, and it's important to me to present myself the way that I feel inside. But it definitely garners a lot of attention in India.
For example, in Dominican Republic, it is traditional that you stay at home with your parents, you go to college, and then after that, you stay home with your parents until you get married. And I think that's not only because of tradition, but also like the lack of opportunities that there are, and like the economy there is, it's not that possible for you to like just find a normal job and like that, for that to be enough so that you can move out of your house like young.
My parents really instill a kind of like fear and shame around it, which I don't know if it's true. Recently, I've been video chatting with my grandma because I haven't been able to visit her. And she loves the blonde hair. She thinks that I'm trying to emulate her because she's gone gray.
I think that's the biggest issue in the recent years, is unfortunately a sort of apathy and maybe even a negative sentiment that we have noticed in American society towards immigrants. Who are immigrants? What are immigrants? What immigrants bring to our society? What effect they have on our everyday life.
You know, it's a very persistent stereotype, but there's a lot of research on it, looking at prison populations and looking at city crime rates, and what it shows is that immigrants are disproportionately unlikely to be in prison.
Because of media influence.
Tonight we take a ground level look at the effects of crime committed by illegal immigrants.
Because of political pundits, because of agendas that certain politicians have, we are hearing things that are not as positive.
Over the years, thousands of Americans have been brutally killed by those who illegally entered our country.
And we are hearing things that are, quite honestly, untrue.
Immigrants willing to take jobs that Americans don't like to do, or taking these jobs out of necessity. This is also a huge economical benefit for the country, because even if they don't have papers, they still paying taxes and they still spending money here. Sure, like they will send the money back to the country, but they here and they another working adult that benefit in the economy. Short answer, absolutely. US depend on immigrants.
I think it's very important. Yeah, it's like diversify the nation, because it's like a nation of immigrants. But living in New York, I wouldn't say that I think there's like not enough immigrants here, you know, but.
We constantly hear that immigrants take away our jobs. We also hear that immigrants cause us to pay higher taxes. We are scared into believing that immigrants commit crimes, that they are in the United States to endanger us. They're in the United States to take away our jobs. They are in the United States to lower our standards of living. And that is just simply not true. That is not true both empirically, meaning there are studies, there are a lot of sociology and political science that show that immigrants are contributing members of society. That society where immigrants are welcomed, where they are integrated well, are societies that do economically better, that achieve, that innovate. I mean, let's use some examples. The founder of Google, Mr. Brin, Sergey Brin, immigrant from the former Soviet Union. You can name many companies, many top Fortune 500, Forbes 400, most fortunate CEOs of companies are immigrants.
So this country is built by immigrants. If you look at the percentage of patents filed every year, it's like 50 or 60% of people not born here. CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, it's like a really high percentage. It's not only people that was born somewhere else, but people that children of immigrants, so second generations of the immigrants. It's somewhere around 50%.
An interesting group of people in the middle of that, and that's people whose parents were immigrants, but they weren't.
I feel like they also have an advantage. They have it instilled in them where they grew up in American culture and they get a good feeling of what American culture's expectations are of them. And I think that their parents really instill how hard it was for them to come over here, not speak the language, get a job, provide for a family, buy a home.
I know many immigrants who are business owners, and that was one of the reasons they immigrated to the United States, to open up a business, provide to their family, and follow their American dream.
When I work with people whose parents are immigrants, they seem to have a knack for American culture, and they seem to have a knack for how hard they have to work to also prove themselves here.
Especially immigrants with higher education, they come to the United States to innovate, to create, to improve. And they do that by obviously hiring new people into the workforce, into paying taxes.
It doesn't matter how old you are when you're moving to the US, it's all about what you want to achieve here as a person.
It's specific type of personality that willing to take risk and change a continent. For someone, it's just pure survival instinct. For someone, it's ambition.
Let's take an example of my mom, right? She didn't know any English and she moved here when she was 40-something years old.
Different people have different motivation, but they all have one thing in common, that they brave and they willing to take risks.
She's the kind of person who would pursue her dream no matter what. Otherwise, if you don't have this drive to literally do anything to succeed in this country, it's going to be a rough path.
Meanwhile, working class Americans are left to pay the price for mass illegal immigration.
There would be no food and beverage industry if there were not immigrants.
Reduced jobs, lower wages.
Every supermarket in America, every restaurant, every city, they don't carry one type of food. They don't carry food that's only made by Americans.
Tolerance for illegal immigration is not compassionate. It is actually very cruel.
It's quite the opposite, where I think it gets harder and harder to find food that is deemed American.
We need immigrants because they bring new ideas, they bring innovations, they bring their skills, they bring diversity.
There are certain countries that are developed solely based on the money that is being sent back by immigrants who work in the United States.
And America is a huge country. I don't buy that argument when somebody tells me, oh, they will get my jobs. If you have a productive society where you can choose your services from various sources, that actually brings better results and the outcome of those services.
And I think we need to get back to that philosophy of welcoming people to the United States, screening them, obviously checking to make sure they are safe for this country, but definitely integrating into our society, helping them become Americans, helping them achieve their American dream, because the payback to the United States is just amazing by immigrants. There is a huge need for waitresses, for chefs. There is, in the service industry, we see a lot of hours of restaurants and service facilities being reduced because they do not have enough staff to work.
We need to secure our border and fix the immigration system. Provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers.
It took me about a week or two to find my first job, simply because I didn't have any problems with my documents. Just like some of my friends went through some rough patches, which I didn't have to go through, which I'm really thankful for.
As far as immigration is concerned, there's actually a void that could be filled by employment-based immigrant visas, which I think we are about to see.
It's not only the right thing to do, it's economically smart thing to do.
Employment-based visas are some of the greatest things that the United States does, because it brings to the United States people who are working most of the time jobs that we as Americans do not want to do or cannot afford to do.
And I ended up working in a supermarket in Brighton Beach as a cashier. I was working at the supermarket for about 2 months before we moved to California.
They are logistics and transit workers. These are people who work in hotels. These are people who clean our houses. These are people who take care of our children. And your average United States citizen can simply not afford to receive that minimum wage or average wage because of their cost of living. But people who come from other countries.
I started working as a food runner and then a waiter in New York. But my main motivation was to do something bigger, because for me it was absolutely no sense changing country and go through all this discomfort and losing all my friends and being away from the family just to do some work that I can do in Ukraine.
When you are an immigrant, usually employers pay you less, or they expect you to be satisfied with less.
My mom has been doing a lot of research about the US and how basically to get started in this country. That was definitely a huge factor for us, where we couldn't take any regular office job, so we had to go a very non-standard way. And one of these ways was to get into tech industry, because we knew that nobody was really requiring a college degree there.
When I first started, I didn't have like a lot of options, so I took or whatever salaries were offered to me just to be able to rent a room.
After I moved to United States, I actually had a friend here who already had a job, so they helped me. So for me it was very quick. I stayed for about a week in a hotel. And then I moved to an apartment that people offered me, and I'm very thankful for that. So right now they're my business partners, so I have some projects together, so we're still working.
I would not say that I was struggling in Ukraine and I come here just to make ends meet. I always wanted to do something bigger. It was not particularly to be a business owner, just to realize my potentials.
I had a dream of working at a startup that was making smart locks, because I've thought that this would be something first that was really interesting to me, or something, that kind of industry that might explode soon. And honestly, I got lucky with this company. That was my first, I would say, serious job, and my first job as a full-time employee at a tech company.
The reason why I came here is because I didn't think there would be as many opportunities in the Dominican Republic for filmmaking and video production. I've never not had a job since I came here, and it's all been in my field.
You have to get used to the work ethic in the US, and if you're not hardworking, it's pretty much tough to get something.
Перший рік – це саме тяжкий час, тому що все впізнаєш, географія переміщень постійно розширяється, запам'ятовуєш вулиці, магазини, міста, дороги, звикаєш до нових знаків, до правил руху. Тим, хто хоче працювати, тим, хто має якусь мету, то Америка повільно відкривається. Спочатку одна робота, потім краще, трошки вища зарплата. Хто пішов вчитися десь коледж, може досягнути більш високих успіхів.
Work-life balance not existing. If you really want to achieve something, you have to work 70-80 hours a week.
Our work ethic is super different from Americans' work ethic. Like here, it's 9 to 5. It's the regular work job. But in Japan, everybody goes home after 8. It's like the hours different. Like when I was dancing in Japan, I used to, in my ballet school, I go to regular high school until 5 o'clock. I go straight to the studio at 5:30, and then I danced until 1 a.m. I go home like 1:30, 2 a.m. And that was normal for teenagers. So yeah, we walk a lot. I don't know if it's healthy or not, but luckily now it's my habit, like how much I walk, so I feel better. Yeah, work ethic is definitely different.
Japan have probably crazier work ethics than us, but it's all about you, what you really want to achieve in your life. I have a clear comparison between work ethic here and in Ukraine, because during the COVID, then I kind of decided to stay for 6 months in Ukraine. Work-life balance, especially like I would say about my city. You have time for coffee with friends, you have time for family. Usually everything starts working at 9 a.m. and not at 6 or 7, and then everyone leaving by 6. Like, you still have this time to live your life. I probably speaking about experience of immigrants. If you work in 9 to 5 job, 4 hours a week, you still have this work-life balance. But I'm trying to say that if you want to be business owner and grow your company aggressively or make something from scratch, then 9 to 5, not really a story about you.
I feel at ease now that I have a career that I don't have to worry about if I'm going to be able to put a meal on my plate tomorrow. I know that my mom is fine, and I know that she has a career as well that is stable, and she doesn't have to worry about these kinds of issues anymore. And yeah, I think we made it.
Когда я сюда переехал, то мне понадобилось месяцев 5-6, чтобы вообще понять, как работает американский бизнес. Потому что это просто небо и земля с Украины. Ответственность, данное слово, качество, обещания. Прям вот все. Вот все работает в Америке правильно по отношению к бизнесу. Есть плюсы, есть минусы. То есть нельзя сказать, что минусов много в США. Они есть и плюсы, и минусы как в Украине, так и в Америке. Возможностей здесь, конечно, больше. То есть возможностей бери, работай. Все.
As Europe roils over its worst refugee crisis in nearly 8 decades, President Biden announced Thursday the United States will take in 100,000 Ukrainian refugees fleeing Putin's invasion.
Stand for Ukraine? Yes! Will you stand for Ukraine? Yes! Will you petition the White House, your senators and congressmen now?
Yes! But the process to bring these refugees into the country is a complicated one, and Ukrainians already in America are calling on the government to do more.
I want to hear, will you stand for Ukraine?
Yes! I had a number of meetings where officials are asking us to connect them with Ukrainians for particular specialties. There is a shortage of employees on the American labor market. So on one side it's good. On another side, Ukrainians actually show the world that they're not classical beggars. They're bringing new businesses. They're bringing new ideas. They're coming here. They immediately, almost all of them, file for employment authorizations because they want to work legally. They want to be productive members of the society. They want to pay taxes. They want to comply with US laws.
Americans are starting to recognize that welcoming refugees into this country is actually in our national interest. And these refugees are demonstrating that in their opposition to autocracy.
I want you to speak on behalf of America. I don't want to engage in politics. I don't want to hear Democrats, Republicans. I don't want to hear any arguments. Remember, you are the American nation.
Most Americans I speak to are extremely welcoming. You have a nationals of a very culturally rich country in the middle of Europe with European standards, European values, a European way of life, and an outlook towards Europe and the West, now under these dire circumstances joining the ranks of the American population. And most Americans, they welcome Ukrainians with open arms. They help them to integrate into the American society. They assist them in working towards achieving their maybe short-lived but nevertheless American dream.
Freedom is not free. It costs blood, and blood has produced freedom. We need our United States to make a stand for freedom around the world and in the Ukraine right now, because without freedom in the Ukraine, there is no freedom in the United States.
Incredible support, incredible level of support on the level of the American government, but also on the level of American society.
This country is a nation of laws, and we must make sure that our word is good. We promise to stand with the people of the Ukraine, and I say that today we must honor that promise.
They are happy that Ukraine is standing against Russia. They happy to see that somebody is standing for what is right. They do understand the challenges that Ukraine is facing right now. You know that prices in the United States went up. You know the prices for oil. It's all driven by a lot of processes, including war in Ukraine.
We ask our government to not calculate the cost of fuel, but to calculate the cost of lives, democracy, and freedom, that it shall remain on this earth. Slava Ukraina!
But Americans, when I speak to them, they're extremely supportive. On the level from the government, I would say yes, a lot of programs and changes were implemented for Ukrainians.
Putin's aggression against Ukraine will end up costing Russia dearly, economically and strategically. Freedom will prevail. God bless the people of a free and democratic Ukraine.
I think that the United States is very interesting when it comes to opportunity, because I've always felt that it can provide them. And as I get older and in different businesses and get my hands on more in different cities and different states, I think I now see also how quickly parts of the United States can take away an opportunity from someone as well.
Back in Soviet Union, the communist country, there was no freedom to start your own business, practice your religion, have any types of opportunities that America offers. So when we moved to America, we wanted to pursue the American dream. Basically, what I think American dream means is the ability for a person to achieve their goals and hopes.
It's definitely easy to come here, have an idea, and make a business out of it. I think it's an extremely difficult place to make those ideas profitable for the long term without one aspect of the United States becoming an obstacle in the way of that, whether it be government regulation or taxation or different laws that prevent you from doing business in certain areas. It's definitely a country with a lot of regulation that could also inhibit opportunity. So yeah, I think it goes both ways. I think it offers opportunity, and the older I get, the more I realize it could also take it away in the middle of the night.
Recently, we've all been thinking about what freedom does mean in America and who gets to have it. And I think there are a lot of freedoms that I still don't have in America, and that many other people have even less than that. But some of the superficial freedoms, I can say, like the freedom to express myself, like maybe it's, you know, it's not everything, but it does count for something.
America offers freedom, opportunities. Doesn't matter what your background is, whether it's financially, religious, your stance on political views. America is open to everybody, and that's what makes America great.
When I think of American Dream, I think of my worst nightmare.
I think the American dream existed, but for white people. And even that is questionable.
I just imagine this white picketed fence in the suburbs where all houses look the same. Everybody owns a Toyota Corolla or something like that. It's just this boring.
The American Dream is the house that's separated from the other houses. I forgot what that's called, but like I think it's called like a single family house, not like a row home or something. It's the white picket fence, the dog, the two kids. That's like the American Dream. That dream is for Americans though. I don't think it's for African Americans. I don't think it's for other cultures.
That whole dream can be. You know, you have whole generations of even white people saying, we feel lied to. We feel like this dream never existed. It was just a way to get us to slave away and work hard and without really getting the benefits of being American.
And you're just stuck in the system. And then your kids are stuck in the system. How do we still have first generation students going to college? And we're only what, like 15% of the population? We're some small percentage. We're the minority. So I'm saying all that to say that freedom from the system. If a cop, God forbid, a cop is pulling me over and my heart is racing, not because I got something in the car, but the fact that he could kill me for no apparent reason. The freedom, the mental freedom, that's the American dream. What is it to be free?
I wonder what that means, the American dream, because I think maybe for an immigrant, it is like you come to America and you can like be rich and successful and have opportunities that you might not have had where you're coming from. And so in that case, I think, yeah, there are a lot of opportunities. But if the American dream is to, I don't know, believe in like pushing this like some sort of manifest destiny forward, I don't believe in that for sure.
I believe that American dream is achievable for everyone. But I don't discount that statement completely. Because unfortunately, I do think that Black and brown people have to fight for it, unfortunately, a lot harder.
I think it is possible to achieve their goals, but it's definitely going to be much harder simply because of the way how that community was treated for so many years. And I honestly, this is what hurts me the most when I don't see a lot of Black people in tech. Because I know that there are lots of smart people out there, and sometimes they get rejected a job just because of their background, and it's just saddening.
Right? You see that people just want to live happy lives, right? And I feel like the American dream sold that. It was like, you can have the best life, you can have the picket fence and all that stuff, but really it was kind of like a trap. Brought people into like an endless cycle of slaving away and people going to college, getting in debt, and now having to spend the rest of your life paying it off.
That's just gonna be the same every single day. You're gonna see the same kinds of people everywhere around you. You're going to go to malls on your weekends, and that's going to be when you're one of the sources of entertainment. That's what I'm afraid of, to live in life like that.
You talk about Medicare, you talk about all kinds of stuff that can literally just crush you if you get super sick, could literally put you in debt forever.
I don't see any issue that can be fixed easily. Like anything starting from healthcare, which is a big problem, I think. It's got so big and so complicated that it's no easy solution. You can just be born in different city or different neighborhood, and United States will be different for you.
Maybe that's not a popular opinion, unfortunately, in this community. I also don't believe that everyone, including some of my close friends and relatives, will agree with me. But I went to law school in the Appalachia, in the state of West Virginia, which ironically was the first state where they declared itself slavery-free. And I saw how people live in some of the most poorest places that the United States has. A lot of times it's called Appalachian fatalism.
I think there have been some examples of exclusions from communities, or of not feeling like I totally fit in, or just finding myself being like the only person who is not white in a room. But I still get to be in those rooms, and I do count that as a privilege. I wish that it was different, and I hope that like my being there will be a gateway to it being different.
One of the guys that worked for me at that time, we were doing like a review type of situation where I reviewed him and then he would review me back. And one of the things he said was, you just don't get how things work here.
People who fight very hard to achieve, who are smart, good, kind people, and they just cannot get beyond a certain level or certain lifestyle, no matter how hard they work. And they feel that that is sort of, they're born into that. They're born into poverty, they're born into misery, and they feel like no matter what they do, they can't get out of it. And I think a lot of it has to do with socioeconomic levels. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, because I think American dream is possible, but a lot of times it gets lost in the opportunity.
The boss isn't thinking about the black people, but the black people think about the boss. I'm not saying that a black person can't be the boss, but like the white person that's like holding the system in place, that just keeps it going.
I believe that it's more about socioeconomics. It's more about what kind of opportunities you have been given and what kind of guidance you are being given as a child. Whether you have a home where both parents live, whether you have, a constant input from a mentor, somebody who encourages you to go to school and to attain an education.
I do think that the U.S. is still a country of opportunities for immigrants. The big difference is that there's more competition. For you to succeed here, you still have to strive, you still have to work hard.
Recently, I've been thinking a lot about what success means to me, and I think that anytime you are setting up a dichotomy of like, oh, there is either success or happiness, then you're like setting yourself up to fail. And so I think maybe it's like a little bit of both, where like I do want to write a novel one day, be a published creative fiction author, but at the same time, I don't let that be the only thing in my life.
So around the time I moved, I also met my wife. So she's from Connecticut, she's white. And she's awesome. To be honest with you, that's what kept me around. I would have moved back to Zimbabwe, but I have something amazing with her, and we're like, she's from here, her family's here, so yeah, we're staying here. Like we're gonna try and make it work here, and so yeah, that was the decision.
Society has changed in the United States a lot, and because the circumstances have changed, and society has changed as a result of it. But I will tell you without any hesitation that America is a dream place to live. It is still the land of the free. it is still the place you want to be.
I believe America gives opportunity to everybody. America is open to all races, to all backgrounds. That's why a lot of countries and a lot of immigrants from all over the world want to move to America, because it's open to opportunities, whether you're African American, whether you're Asian or Latino.
Nothing is like the USA. This is a country of opportunity, but you have to be honest. Esa es una de las cosas que me gusta, que aquí siempre cuando hay un juicio y algún problema, es una de las cosas más bonitas de este país. Y yo vivo eternamente agradecido. Aquí fue donde yo me casé, tengo 2 hijas maravillosas, educadas, tengo una esposa hermosa, muy bien todo, una gran moral todo, la moral. Eso es lo que más me...
It's not just my opinion. This is what I hear from my clients and people I talk to and meet every day. Those who come from other countries.
My family, my father, my grandfather, they were very talented cooks and chefs, and they always had a dream to open up a family restaurant.
And the reason for that is because the opportunities in the United States are still better than anywhere in the world.
In former Soviet Union, they had no opportunity to do that. There wasn't any potential to grow the business.
There's not going to be an easy way to achieve a goal that you want. You're going to have to fight for it.
When we migrated to United States, their dream came true. They opened up family business, they opened up a restaurant.
I constantly work with Canadian clients, clients from Israel, clients from Australia. You would think developed economies with, free society, but those clients still want to come to the United States because they want to achieve their American dream. Whether it's higher salaries, whether it's opportunities to advance at a much more faster rate, whether it's the opportunity to change their chosen professions and pick up a new skill, whether it's the opportunity to buy real estate, which is a dream for a lot of people around the world, but is not a dream that's achievable even in some of the most wealthiest countries. Whether it's the opportunity to have a nice car, a nice watch, but not only materialistic things. It is the opportunity to really feel like you are free.
I see myself coming back to Ukraine with knowledge that I'm acquiring here and trying to implement my knowledge about running business and maybe some economical policies and just social life in general back in Ukraine. But my goal is to stabilize the company because we have 2 offices. One will be in the United States and another in Lviv, Ukraine. I don't see myself moving completely to one country because if you once moved somewhere, like change the continent, then it's not hard for you to just travel between countries and spend month here and month there.
I'm thinking of having like a second place to go to because I love New York, but I hate the weather. So I want to go to the Dominican Republic for like warmer months, especially now because I work remotely. I want to have a big space to myself. And that's just more realistic in Dominican Republic. But I don't plan on moving there like full time yet.
A lot of my cousins are thinking about moving to America and they ask me what it's like. And I think they are gonna be much happier. I think they are going to be much more comfortable, and I think it's a great choice for them in a lot of ways, but I think it is isolating. It's not the same environment of families always around or there are always people around, and it's just hard to be away from everyone you know.
Zimbabwe, it's where I'm from, and there's something about the air, about I'm not a very hyper spiritual person, but in my heart I'm just like, yeah, like that's where my heart is. I look forward to the day when we're able to just go back and experience it in its full potential. I miss it every day. I make the most of my life here, and I'm I feel like I'm starting to have more of a purpose here, especially when it comes to activism and music. And that's where I'm at right now, just using my music to talk about racism, to talk about justice, equality, to talk about how every person deserves an equal opportunity. So I would say I'm living a great life right now, or rather I'm living within my purpose, and I feel like I'm meant to be here, but I do miss Zimbabwe.
I'm definitely not going back to Russia this year, and it very depends on the situation. I wanted to apply for Russian citizenship for my daughter, but now I'm not rushing into that. I feel sad for people. Immediately become enemy of the nation if you just say, I refuse to accept this, that the war is happening. I don't want war.
I know that there are some doors here that through those doors I can help Kosovo being here. I'm in contact with State Department, ambassadors, UN representatives. I'm often invited to the events because there are 20 years of my life experience in journalism, a lot of knowledge, information that I share, what I used to write and what I'm covering again.
Но как только война закончится, у меня огромные планы на Украину. Я хочу создать такой кампус, самый большой кампус визуальных эффектов в Европе. И мы его сделаем. То есть я хочу в Днепропетровске создать такой офис, в котором будет в будущем 1000 артистов визуальных эффектов. И это будет огромная, мощная студия, которой просто нет в Европе.
So I completely changed my view of the country and of my role, my role and all the millions of immigrants around the world. Because let's think about Italy after World War II or before, all the immigrants here that was moving to the United States for economical benefits. You barely don't see immigrants from Italy anymore because it was time when they start coming back, and then at some point they just not immigrate into the United States just for economical benefits. They can work here for a year or two or just come here as a tourist. So I'm really hoping that we will see the time when Ukrainians from all over the world start coming back to build our economy and make our country part of European Union.
There were really a lot of opportunities, and Ukraine was really growing. The business was growing, the industries were growing. So I wouldn't say that Ukraine before the war was a country with less opportunities for those ones who want to make their dreams. I would say Ukrainians travel around the globe, and they brought to Ukraine the best that they actually saw. So I truly hope when the war will be over, a lot of people will be interested to invest in Ukraine and also to come back to Ukraine to rebuild Ukraine. So it will be new and beautiful and prosperous country. And I truly believe that Ukrainian dream will be nothing less than American dream.
Take the opportunity, but don't forget who you are. Don't forget where you're from. Don't forget, because the experience you're about to have will almost try and blow that out.
I always believe if you're a hard worker, if you never give up for your dream or your goals, people that come from different countries that have a strong work ethic, have commitment, they're going to be able to commit and make their dreams come true.
Look at me, I came as a Jewish refugee from the former Soviet Union, from Ukraine. We arrived with 3 suitcases. There was 5 of us. We lived in a cramped apartment in Northeast Philadelphia. Here I went to a wonderful high school, a very well respected university. I went to law school, obtained a master's degree. And here I am practicing immigration law and living that American dream. So if I can do it, you can do it. And if you can do it, then I encourage you to tell others that they can do it as well.
To the bone, just trying to make something out of nothing, you know. He never wanted silver, gold, or the finer things. Just a wife and kids, a home, and the American dream. Whoa, how you gonna step in line? American dream. I wanna see the world from the edge of my seat, through a big windshield or a plane, not a TV screen. Don't you need the road to tell you who you really are? Find out whether or not a man could ever change his stars. Whoa.